Welcome to a brand new episode of Law and Batting Order. I'm your host, Tony Iliakostas, and welcome to the premiere of a brand new segment to Law and Batting Order called The Huddle. As I mentioned last week and also back in December when I introduced the segment, The Huddle is an exclusive segment to Law and Batting Order where we'll be having a roundtable discussion with other members of the sports law community to talk about a compelling sports law topic. And I'm especially excited to kick off this premiere of The Huddle. And what better way to do it than with really awesome people, people who are great friends that I've gotten to know over the months, and I'm sure you're in for a great treat today. Also, just to let you know that you can be part of the Huddle discussion. The whole reason why the Huddle exists is so that we can all discuss this same topic. So as you'll see on the screen, there will be a handle that says, actually, it's a hashtag, rather. There will be a hashtag that says The Huddle. You can go on Twitter and you can follow along with the discussion there, and you can share your thoughts on today's topic. So today we'll be talking about the Biogenesis PED scandal that has plagued Major League Baseball. It's been really quite the scandal that's been going on, and I think that there's a lot of legal issues that come up with it, but as sports fans, everyone should be aware of it, and it has certain ramifications, especially if this goes beyond baseball. But today's episode features some very special guests. My guests are comprised primarily of, well, actually, they're all presidents of sports law societies from all the law schools. So this is the part where I'll stop talking, and I'm going to let everyone do their own introductions. So we're going to kick things off with Andrew Orcutt. Andrew, go ahead and take the stage. Introduce yourself.
Hi guys, I'm Andrew Orcutt. I am a rising 2L at the University of Miami School of Law. I'm the president, like Anthony said, of the University of Miami Entertainment and Sports Law Society. I was recently selected as one of 7 law students in the nation to participate in the Law Student Reporters Program for the ABA Intellectual Property Law section at the annual conference this August. My Twitter handle is right behind me, at Andrew_Orcutt. You can follow me. Always like connecting with people. Big interest in sports and entertainment law, and looking forward to this discussion, and happy to be here. Thanks, Tony.
No problem, Andrew. All right, let's kick things off to my partner in crime, Jackie Lamer. Jackie, introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Jackie Lamer. I'm a rising 3L at New York Law School, where I am the president of the Sports Law Society, amongst other things. This summer, I am working at my county's public defender's office, but my interest is primarily in sports law. And we have a Twitter, which is, I think, NY Sports Law.
It's at NYLS Sports Law. Yeah.
That's what I meant. At NYLS Sports Law.
Great. Thanks, Jackie. All right, now kick things off to the one and only Matt Wilson. Matt, take it away.
Hi, thanks. Thank you, Tony. My name is Matt Wilson. I'm a rising 2L and the president of the Sports and Entertainment Law Society at Emory University School of Law in Atlanta, Georgia. Right now, if you can see in the background, I am at home working in St. Louis. That is the beautiful Busch Stadium in the background. I'm working half my summer here, and then I am going to start at a real estate litigation firm in Atlanta come July 8th. But my interests are primarily sports law. My Twitter handle is at MattyWill89. Follow me on there. I keep my Twitter handle pretty active, as Tony can attest to, so I love connecting to people, and I look forward to that.
If you're not a Cardinals fan, so I'm calling out all the Pirates fans, Brewers fans, Cubs fans, Reds fans, don't go on Matt's page because he's going to talk all Cardinals. That's what it's all about.
That is a true story.
Well, anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. Let's kick things off with the Huddle. So I'm a baseball fan. Everyone here is a baseball fan. Unlike Matt, who actually roots for a winning team, and Jackie, who also roots for a winning team.
Sometimes.
I'm a Met fan, so I happen to see losing teams on a regular basis, but I'm a loyal fan nonetheless. But what's funny about just following baseball is that in addition to seeing your favorite stars or those really special players come through the big leagues and they win you over. Aside from seeing the good side of baseball, you do see the bad side of baseball, and I'm talking about what's plagued baseball for the past decade or two, which has been performance-enhancing drugs and steroids. And I think the Biogenesis scandal really takes it a step up when it comes to really talking about cracking down on performance-enhancing drugs and just generally speaking, doping scandals that plague sports. So, Andrew, I'm going to start off with you. What was your initial reaction as a baseball fan about this whole Biogenesis scandal from the time that rumors loomed that Biogenesis was supplying performance-enhancing drugs to Major League Baseball players to now where there is speculation as ESPN's Outside the Lines is reporting that Major League Baseball will be suspending as many as 20 players for their involvement in Biogenesis. Andrew, you have the floor.
Yeah, so my first reaction, with any big sports story like this, was initially surprised. You never expect anything like this to happen. At the same time, then I remembered that we're talking about baseball and performance-enhancing drugs, and so then at the same time, I wasn't as surprised. At this point, I think I'm a little numb to the kind of PED talk that happens in baseball. I think a lot of people are. So that probably played off to some of my less being surprised at first. And secondly, exploring more about it, I realized that it was basically happening right in my neighborhood in Coral Gables, Florida, where I go to school. So I was trying to figure out where this office was, and I drove by it, and I was like, that looks shady. Then again, it kind of made me realize that, yeah, this isn't that surprising, I guess.
Yeah, I would expect it not to be that surprising, especially since, like you said, steroids have just become, I guess, a part of the nature of baseball. Jackie, what do you have to say about this whole scandal?
I'm kind of, I guess, tired of all the PED talk. Like, drugs have been a part of baseball forever, and I know we'll get into the legality later on, but, like, performance-enhancing drugs outside of baseball, like, aren't illegal, so why now? I just don't get why these are the big issues, whereas, like, there were amphetamines and drugs in baseball early on, and then coke in the 80s, and Doc Ellis pitched a no-hitter on LSD in 1970, yet, like, now is when it's the big issue, and I'm just like, I don't see why they're making I know why they're making a big deal of it, but I don't see why the media has to hype it up so much when they haven't previously.
Well, let me ask you this, just to follow up to that. Would it have to deal with maybe the reason why the media is hyping it has to do with the fact that they're stressing the importance of the integrity of baseball? I mean, I guess you can make the argument that the integrity of baseball has been a priority for the league since the time it was founded. But do you think maybe that's the reason why the media is hyping it so much?
I don't know, because what about the integrity of other sports? I mean, I know that Congress has been really concerned with the integrity of baseball since they gave it the exemption from antitrust laws, and maybe that's why they're playing such a big role in it. But why baseball and nothing else? And if nothing else, then again, why baseball?
Right.
I mean,
right.
To build off that, I think every sport is concerned with the integrity of their sport. If you see now the NFL with Roger Goodell cracking down on the hard hits and the hits to the head, and the NBA cracking down on their kind of thug persona that they sort of used to have, and now, when David Stern instituted the dress code policy, it was met with a lot of negativity, and a lot of people were opposed to that. Now it's almost morphed into its own animal. NBA style is huge now. So I think, yeah. I mean, getting off topic, but the gist of it is that I think each league is concerned with the integrity of their league, and this is certainly baseball's biggest problem, whereas, like I said before, with NBA and NFL, each sport has their own issue respectively. So.
Right, exactly. All right, Matt, take it away. What do you have to say about this?
Again, to kind of piggyback off what's been said before me, I wasn't completely shocked. I'm numb to it. I understand. However, I am a little surprised because of, and this goes to what we'll be talking about later, because during the Balco and the initial PED scandals in baseball, there wasn't a standard in place. There wasn't a uniform. The things people were doing were not illegal at the time, quite frankly. And now there is a stringent policy. There is a very strict steroid policy that is in the new labor agreement. And the fact that, again, I'm not surprised that, because people will always cheat, especially when the rewards are $100 million contracts. However, I was just surprised at some of the repeat offenders. A-Rod comes to mind, who have previously been, who could have understandably maybe salvaged his legacy had he only done PEDs when they were not strictly illegal. However, now that they're illegal and they're still linking him to it, I think his legacy's ruined, to be honest.
Oh, absolutely.
And one thing, as a Cardinal fan, and no matter where he went, where he goes now, I will never believe that Albert Pujols took steroids until I see a positive test. He's never been linked. His name's never been indicted, and I hold it close to my heart that he isn't a steroid user. But yeah.
Well,
understandably.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say, the Angels, his lackluster performance on the Angels is just a little bit of a surprise, but, I'll leave it at that. Not making any assumptions. But let's dive into the next question here, which is, what in your mind sets the Biogenesis scandal apart from the Balco scandal or maybe a similar doping scandal? Matt, I'll kick this off to you.
Again, kind of going off what I had just said, this is supposed to be the post-steroid era of baseball. Because 25 years ago, 20 years ago, when this stuff was first getting brought to Commissioner Selig's attention, he kind of left it, or he kind of pushed it aside. And then as the media, the 24-hour news cycle that we live in now, kind of amplified the pressure on him, he kind of stepped it up. And now, to date, baseball has the stringiest steroid testing policy in all of professional sports. So the thing that I believe sets this apart is that this is in the post-steroid era. This stuff is supposed to be gone. This stuff's supposed to be out of the game. But obviously it's still taking place.
Right. Andrew, what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I think going off of kind of what I and my two other guests said previously, I think this time around America's a little more numb to it. Balco, I think, was certainly a huge blow to everyone. I remember the names that were coming out, and just everybody was just shocked completely. And this along with kind of what has happened with Lance Armstrong and cycling and the turn for the worse that sport has taken and looks to be continuing to take. I think people are, again, just kind of numb to the allegations. It's kind of old news at this point. I know a lot of people who are baseball fans and who are not baseball fans that at this point just assume everybody's taking steroids. Right. I mean, when this many people have been named, and the big players and even the small players being named, and in minor leaguers and things like that, it's just at this point it's a mess. It's a mess, and I'm probably not the guy to fix it. I probably don't have all the ideas, but I certainly hope someone does, because something needs to be done one way or the other. And at this point, I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, Jackie, what do you think of this?
I mean, I'd agree with all that. Even the way you emphasize 20 players, like, it should be such a big deal. It's 20 players, but none of us react to it. Like, oh my God, it's 20 players. Just like, oh, steroids in baseball again. All right, whatever. It's become so regular in the sport. It's sad to see, but it's not something to really get surprised over anymore, and that's unfortunate.
Well, I'll say this, and I'm saying this as a baseball fan and as someone who really monitors these steroid scandals very closely. I won't say that I was numb to it, but I did find the 20 players a little alarming. Not that I'm saying, oh my goodness, here are players who use steroids. I'm just finding it alarming in terms that there isn't enough, let's say, regulation, or that many players could get away with really using it that frequently, even though we do live in this post-steroid era or the steroid era. I guess it's really on the balance. And, the frequency of players using steroids or performance-enhancing drugs is so frequent that I can understand that. But I think you can't overlook the fact that you're still talking about 20 players. And as Matt pointed to, you're talking about some players who are accustomed to it, but then some new names. Like, for example, we know A-Rod was listed in it. We've known for the history of his career that he's been using steroids, at least since he was in Texas. Ryan Braun, who successfully overturned an appeal, I think it was 2011.
On a technicality.
Right,
Yeah, right.
Exactly right. But no one denied the fact that the man used steroids.
No.
And here he is again using steroids. Melky Cabrera, who had just gotten suspended last season for using steroids, here he is again. So I can understand those names not being a surprise. But names like Johnny Peralta, I think there was I think Everett Cabrera from the Padres. There were some other players. I know that there was a former Met that was on that list as well. I mean, like some minor leaguers, but then like other names that you were just surprised and did not expect to see on that list. That I think that should have led some people to be a little surprised. But I can understand what everyone is saying here, and I would definitely agree in that respect that the public, broadly, is most likely not surprised and shouldn't be surprised by these news. Let's dive to the next question here, which is really leading to the legality of this whole issue, because I think as normal fans, and I'm speaking to law school students, lawyers, and sports fans alike, when you look at this facially, you may not necessarily see the legal issues right there, but if you dig deeper, you do see some legal issues, and they're hidden, but they're there, they're visible. So Matt, from a legal perspective, what do you think are the biggest legal issues that will arise from the Biogenesis scandal and the subsequent investigations and suspensions? And when you do rattle off those issues, why do you think those particular issues are significant?
Thanks, Tony. Well, from where I'm sitting and from all the research that I've done on this, the main issue that everyone's talking about that jumps right off the page is the credibility of Tony Bosch, the man who is in charge of who ran the Biogenesis plant, who gave out these drugs, and then destroyed the evidence. A man who Major League Baseball has been for years trying to discredit as a scumbag, a drug dealer, and now they're kind of resting their case on him. That's the first issue that jumps out to me. But as I've done some of my research, one of the things that's been noted is MLB has used sketchy characters in the past. With the Pete Rose situation, they used his former bookie as one of their informants, and obviously a sketchy character, Ron Peters, his former bookie, and so this is nothing new. But when you dive a little bit deeper, some of the issues that come into play, especially if we're talking about the bigger names, the A-Rods, the Ryan Brauns, is whether or not, first of all, whether or not MLB has the right to suspend just based off of allegations and possible evidence given by this sketchy character, not based off a failed test. There are no failed tests that, as of now, available right now. So that's a major legal issue, whether or not MLB can suspend. There is something that I've found in the joint drug agreement that they can suspend for participation in use and sale of illegal drugs. However, again, this comes to whether or not they have the evidence to prove it, and which brings up another big issue, and that's it kind of relates to the Jonathan Vilma, the Bountygate scandal. Jonathan Vilma used that scandal, and he filed a defamation suit against Roger Goodell. to leverage his position legally against the NFL. And that's something that possibly I've come across that some players could use as a way to leverage their position if they are suspended or they are called publicly drug users or dopers without a failed test. So and then lastly, it's whether or not the teams have the legal right to void contracts. A-Rod still has 4 years, over $100 million left on his contract. If he fails his second drug test, plus he's unhealthy right now, that's 4 years, $100 million that the Yankees have to pay. And we all know the Yankees can afford that, but they're obviously going to want to get out of that.
It's a legal strain. I mean, like legal and financial strain.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's the legal issues involved with whether or not they can legally void his contract.
Right. That actually would be extremely incredible if they actually did try and void his contract. I mean, that's pretty unprecedented.
Yeah.
In baseball, anyway. And I'd have to look more into exactly what qualifies or the team to be able to do that. And I know there's been a few sports law professors and professionals who have talked about that a little bit, and it's been interesting following what exactly would happen there. I'd be interested to see what happens.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I actually have the language, at least from what I've read and come across, is that the uniform player contract says that in paragraph 7B1, it authorizes a team to terminate a contract if a player fails, refuses, or neglects to conform his personal conduct to the standards of good citizenship and good sportsmanship, and to keep himself in physical condition or obey the club's training rules. However, as you said, it's unprecedented for a team to actually use this. One of the things I came across was the Rockies tried to void Denny Nagel's contract a couple, I guess now probably about a decade ago, for soliciting a prostitute, and they were unable to get it done. So,
interesting. It'll definitely be exciting to see how it plays out, especially if they the league tries to suspend him. Because going off of what you said earlier with whether or not they have the right to suspend him without an actual positive drug test. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the league, kind of the CBA, gives the commissioner power to do that, even if they have. I think all they need is reasonable suspicion or maybe probable cause that they're associated with drug use or performance-enhancing drug use.
Right. Yeah. Jackie, what do you have to say to that?
I think the defamation thing you brought up is really interesting, because I didn't even think about that. Like, I have a hard time, like, when people talk about legality issues in sports, I'm like, sports is a business. They have rules. Like, let them deal with their rules. But, like, the doping allegations and what it can mean for someone's reputation is actually a really good point. And the contract things, like yeah, there's always something in everyone's contract, or not everyone's, but in like people who represent a company like publicly, there's something about decency, you know, with models. It's or if you're if you like are a tennis player and you wear Nike, you have to wear Nike. And if you were a different company, you could get your contract lost for that. Or if you're a model for a certain company, you can't be seen like stumbling drunk down the sidewalk sometimes, like when you're on the cover of their magazine. It's the same thing. Baseball players shouldn't be allowed, if you're representing a team, you shouldn't be allowed to be out there with the knowledge or thought that you're taking steroids and wearing their uniform. It's an interesting topic, and I it is unprecedented, but I think it would be great to see. To make it happen. Like, it's in their contracts for a reason. He shouldn't be taking steroids, and if he is, he's misrepresenting the symbol of his team.
Right, exactly. Now, I guess in my end, thinking about this, Matt brought up the great point, and I guess everyone is agreeing to this also, which is the fact of whether or not Anthony Bosch, or Tony Bosch rather, if he's a credible witness here. I mean, thinking about this, it reminds me of Victor Conti from Balco, who basically, he was arrested by the feds. He was administering illegally all these steroids, but it was just a matter of federal cooperation that basically allowed him to escape from a huge trial against him. And and now here he is on Twitter, basically like going on these rants about steroids and performance-enhancing drugs on baseball. And you see that type, I guess you could say that you see that same type of behavior in Tony Bosch. So I think that is a bit of alarm. Now, going off the whole voiding contract thing, and I guess if any of you want to comment on this, by all means, I think what may sort of be the smoking gun here. Yes, it is the drug test, whether or not if they can produce a positive test that the A-Rod was indeed using a performance-enhancing drug. But wouldn't there be, let's go to the fundamentals of contract law, which is, you sign a contract under good faith intentions. So if he was signing this whole thing under bad faith, couldn't that be enough to void the contract? I mean, what do you guys have to say about that?
How do you prove he was signing it under bad faith, though? Like, that's a tough thing to go into. But you can sign it under good faith and then go back on your word, and then you're going against what the contract says, and that's not okay either.
Well, even let's go to A-Rod's case specifically, because in his case, I think when he was on I forgot where he admitted he was using steroids. I think it was MLB Network or ESPN. He had said that he was using steroids between.
I think it was 60 minutes, actually.
60 minutes, right? Okay. Well, anyway, in any case, he had said that he had used steroids between 1999 and 2001, and I believe 2003 as well. So 2003, he was already in pinstripes. He was playing for the Yankees. That was his first appearance in the World Series as a player. That was a time where he was using steroids. So if he had signed that, he had just been traded. So he never signed that contract technically with the Yankees, but he did sign that 10-year contract with the Rangers in '99. If he was using steroids at that time and he was promising that he won't be using steroids, that he'll play to the best of his ability, couldn't that be, let's say, not the strongest evidence, but could that be certainly one step towards saying, okay, I think this is enough to void the contract?
I think it's certainly a step. I don't think it's anywhere near enough. It's too easy for him to say, of course I wasn't planning on using steroids. I don't know how Major League Baseball would go about proving that. But yeah, like you said, it could certainly be used as a building block or a stepping stone towards the right direction. But they'd have a lot more work to do from there, that's for sure.
Sure, absolutely. All right, so let's go on to the next topic here, which is on Major League Baseball's drug testing program, because I think this is a very important topic. When you're talking about PED talks and everyone reporting left and right that here are baseball players using performance-enhancing drugs, it gets back to the broad question, the most important question, which is whether or not Major League Baseball's drug testing program is very effective. I'll kick things off with this question because I'm actually very familiar with this. I had mentioned in a previous episode of Law and Batting Order, and I'm sure I mentioned it elsewhere on the website, that I had written an article on Major League Baseball's drug testing program, and I really keenly looked at the whole program step by step. I agree with Matt what he said from the very beginning of this episode, which is that it is a very effective program. If not, I think it is the strictest drug testing program in any major league sport in this entire country. Perhaps, if you want, I would say I'm making it a stretch if I'm saying it's in the entire world. But it would certainly be up to the standards of, let's say, WADA or USADA or any of those other doping organizations that have certain standards when it comes to drug testing. But at least when you're comparing it to the NBA, the NHL, the NFL, I guess MLS, any other league, you're talking about, hands down, one of the strictest drug testing policies that we have seen in our day. And in my opinion, it has made massive strides. I can remember back when it was, I think, 2005, when Rafael Palmeiro was suspended. At first, it was 10 games for that one. And here he is. After that whole suspension, he never played a day in his life again of baseball. And then it slowly evolved after that. It was, I think, 25 games, and then it became the official 50-game, 100-game, lifetime ban, three-strike system. I think it works. I think it certainly sends a loud and clear message to players that if they cheat one time and they get caught again, they're going to face harsher consequences, and it could basically stack up at that point. I'm not sure if anyone else has those same sentiments. Who wants to take the floor on this one?
I'll chime in. It works, but they're still repeat offenders, so there's still something wrong with it. And I mean, I think there's something else that could be done. For instance, like right now with my job with the public defender, one of the programs that the courts have is called drug court. And I'm not saying that baseball should do this, but a program like it could be brought in where it's if you get charged with a crime of like drug use or possession or whatever the crime is, instead of spending time in prison, they put you through this program where you meet with the judge with everyone once a week. You meet with the judge privately once a week. You go through programs every day, and you get drug tested randomly every week, and you have to call in like 3 times a week to see if you're being tested that day, and then you get tested in the program you're going through, and it's just a lot of things to make sure you're doing it, and there's consequences if you test positive. I believe it's if you admit to doing it before your drug test, you're okay, but they're not happy with you. If you admit after the drug test, you get a week in jail, and if you don't admit, you get 2 weeks in jail. And these are people who are in this program for 12 months, 18 months, even longer if they don't complete it on time, in order to keep themselves from going to prison, and they're spending weeks at a time in jail because they're not doing it. And it gets it through their brains pretty quickly. Stop messing up or you're going to jail. And they can even get kicked out of the program. And I'm not saying that Major League Baseball players should go to jail, but there could be something where it's like, if you're a repeat offender, you get tested often, and it's just what happens because you're known for this. And if you test positive, something's going to happen immediately. And
Right.
It's not through this whole like, oh, maybe he did it, maybe he didn't. This guy's saying that's pretty sketchy. No, it's like, here's your drug test, you did it, you should do this.
Right.
My thoughts, as I said earlier, the tests are strict. It's a great policy. However, again, with the incentives this high, Albert Pujols 10 years, $240 million. Josh Hamilton, 7 years, 180-something mil, I think. I might be wrong on that. But when the stakes are this high and the contracts are this big, there's going to be outliers. There's always going to be people trying to cheat. However, this may be a bit radical, but if they really wanted to eliminate it, why not kick off a ban right away? Why allow one time? Why allow 2 strikes?
There are talks about that, though, with this whole Biogenesis scandal. What do you think of that?
One thing that I forgot to mention earlier is with this Biogenesis, this is the most serious baseball has ever taken it. This is the most hardline approach they've taken towards this. They're definitely that, and I like that. They're making progress. They're trying to eliminate this from the game. They're like, again, when Balco first came out, he didn't. Selig and the rest of baseball didn't realize maybe at the time how big of a deal it was, or how much this would taint baseball. But now, like looking at it in hindsight, it puts things in perspective that there were people hitting 50, 60 home runs every year, and now no one sniffs 50. No, like it definitely puts in perspective how many guys were and how big of a difference it actually makes. It also puts how historically great Mickey Mantle and Babe Ruth were when they hit 60 and 60 or 61 naturally, or at least But it just kind of it's like, if you want to really deter it, one of the best ways would be impose a ban right away. Betting on baseball, there's a lifetime ban immediately. I mean, I don't know the numbers. I can't say with 100% surety, but Pete Rose got banned, one of the greatest players ever. I'm pretty sure that deterred a lot of people from betting on baseball nowadays. Again, I can't say that 100% certainty, but I would assume that one of the greatest players of all time having a lifetime ban definitely served as a scapegoat, which is one of the things, which is something that could come of this with Ryan Braun, MVP 2 years ago, and A-Rod, one of the league's most visible players. If the league is to take swift and harsh punishment on them, that's sending a message.
Right.
That would certainly send a message, and I'm glad you brought up the Babe Ruth and the old-time players analogy, because I love thinking of just like how amazing those guys were, especially
exactly
considering what guys do now. It's pretty incredible. Yeah, going off what Jackie mentioned with the kind of testing guys who have tested positive more and focusing on them. I know that's been brought up in the media and in inner circles before, and I've always liked that idea, and I know a lot of people have brought up the issues of discrimination with that, and I think that presents an interesting thing, an interesting issue going along with that, but in my eyes, I think it's almost justified at that point. If you're caught blatantly violating league rules, I think you give up some of your personal rights or freedoms within the context of the situation. And I think at that point, you absolutely should be kind of cracked down upon. Trying to think what else Jackie brought up. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, but it slipped my mind at this point.
Okay, well, in any case, you guys brought up very interesting points about preventative measures that should be taken, which, I think is important for Major League Baseball because, like I said, even though it's effective, it's certainly made strides over time. And that's not to say that this is a perfect system, but at least, that's definitely what you want to do. You want to make sure that it's always you want to make sure the program is on its A game. So,
one more thing. Sorry, I wanted to add.
Go ahead.
About what Jackie said about testing more often and things like that. That brought up something in my mind about something that I had seen or read on like a 60 Minutes or something. I think along with the Lance Armstrong doping scandal was that someone said, I think it was a doctor or someone in some inner circle within the sport said, the problem's not guys doping. The problem is masking the doping and the masking agents that go along with it. So testing more often, I honestly don't even know if that would help. You got to think on a very basic level it would, just because your odds get better at that point. But really the problem is, finding a solution to detect these masking agents and diffuse them or disable them to be able to test. The tests almost have to be more advanced themselves, and I think that's the hardest part about it, is that the more masking agents that are out there and the better quality they are and the more that they mask, the tougher this task becomes for Major League Baseball. And it's certainly not going to get easier from here on out, and I think that's how you guys were talking about the bans, taking a more swift approach and just a ban, or increasing the fine amount in addition to the ban would provide long strides towards getting some sort of resolution to this.
Right, absolutely. So let's dive into the next question, which is now what has been plaguing Major League Baseball for the past few years, which is the government getting involved. And Major League Baseball is a private entity. It has its own collective bargaining agreement. Never needed the government involved. In fact, the last time the government ever got involved with Major League Baseball was when, as Jackie correctly alluded to, when they placed an antitrust exemption on Major League Baseball. But that was
being challenged, by the way.
Oh, okay. So there's. But in any case, the 2005 Congress had all the hearings where they invited baseball players to come in. You have players under oath saying they never used steroids, when later on they proved that they were indeed using steroids. They came out in the open saying that. So, Jackie, I'm going to throw this question to you. Do you think the government should play a role in Major League Baseball's drug testing program? And if so, should there be full-fledged intervention, or should they help regulate and let them be accordingly?
No, I don't think the government should be involved at all. And I have a couple blogs out about the antitrust exemption, and I think this is similar. I think it's ridiculous, like everything. And it's almost like Congress is now taking like this paternal instinct to protect the sport that it's been protecting since the 20s, I believe. Like baseball's exempt for, at this point, no reason. No other sport is exempt because they're not the business of baseball, as the courts have put it. And now they're again just trying to step in and protect baseball. And I was thinking about it earlier. If they're trying to protect baseball, why would they be doing all these things and it's bringing it to light in the media where all these players are doing things? And it's because I think they're protecting the business of baseball, not the baseball players themselves. And they want to protect baseball's integrity. And if you have people coming into the sport who are going to do this to baseball, they want to protect the sport and clean up its reputation and get rid of these people who are tainting baseball. And I don't think that's right. Same as I don't think the exemption should stand. I don't think it's the government's place. I think I said this earlier. Baseball's a business just like any other business, and the government doesn't step in on those. Well, sometimes they do, but not in every instance. And why are they stepping in on this when it's not? It shouldn't be an issue that has anything to do with Congress. It's baseball's problem. Baseball should take care of it.
Yeah, plain and simple.
Yeah, I actually could not agree more. I think the government should absolutely not be involved in this whatsoever, especially right now. They have far more important things to be worried about right now. And even,
yeah, they're trying to find Snowden. They can't even find him.
Yeah, exactly. Even if our economy was booming, I don't care. I don't think they should have one single part in this issue whatsoever. If they did, or while they do, it's going to take, anything they try and do is going to take forever to get done, just as anything in government does. And so I wish they would just get as far away as possible, and it maddens me and frustrates me to see them try and get involved. Like Jackie said, that paternal instinct, that's a good analogy, and it's frustrating, and I just don't think it's right.
Yeah, Matt, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I hate to just go with the crowd here, but I agree with everything. The government doesn't go to Google and tell them how to run their company. They don't go to any other private company and tell them how to run it. And I don't understand why they feel this need to do this with Major League Baseball. Again, going off what Andrew said, anything will take years and years, and there's so many hoops to jump through to get something done when you go the governmental route. Major League Baseball taking swift action, working between the Players Union and Major League Baseball, that's how things are going to get done, not with the government getting involved, as evidenced by the Roger Clemens trial. That you took years and nothing was accomplished.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah, it's a waste of time, and it's not gonna. And they, like Andrew said, they have tons of other things to be worried about right now. Let Major League Baseball get the right people in place to make the decisions to clean up the game.
Right, and not to mention Major League Baseball has a Department of Investigations where they do their own investigations. If I'm not mistaken, they're from either have a background in law enforcement or they were lawyers or who had to deal with something along these lines. So they're certainly in a capacity to do that. I will say this, though, not that the government should have full-fledged autonomy when it comes to the drug testing program. If there's, and be honest with me if you think this is wrong or right, or if this is certainly something that should be considered. But one notion that could be considered regarding whether or not the government should be involved is if, let's say, the Major League Baseball goes to a regulatory agency like the FDA or the DEA, someone along those lines, and says, hey, listen, we're trying to crack down on use of performance-enhancing drugs. And there's speculation that the players are getting this illegally, maybe not through a legitimate prescription. Major League Baseball at that point could say to them, do you have certain rules that you implement when you deal with the average citizen that maybe we could piggyback off of? What do you guys think of that idea?
In regards to that, you know, the issue is like if they're getting it illegally or not through a legitimate prescription. I think that falls on the doctors or the people who are giving them these drugs. It's not on the players. It's a lot on the people who are giving it to them, and the FDA can regulate that. The filling prescriptions that don't exist or giving medicine without reason, but players are getting it. It's almost the same as street drugs. You know, the FDA doesn't come in to people who are buying painkillers off the streets. That's a criminal thing with like the courts and police officers and stuff. You know, that's not the FDA there. It's they come in when it comes to giving it out or selling it illegally, you know. So I don't know what the FDA could do other, you know, for the players other than how the government is stepping in on something that it shouldn't be anyway. If the FDA wants to step over their own lines too and crack down on players for something that it's not the FDA's business, but I don't know.
Right. All right, so getting into our final question here, what do you think lies in store for Major League Baseball in the coming months as the Biogenesis investigation continues? I'll chime in first. I think a lot of it will be what are the next steps in terms of enhancing the drug testing program. Certainly the priority is gathering more evidence about these players, gathering more evidence about how Tony Bosch was administering these performance-enhancing drugs to the players. But while that's going on, you know, the Players Association and the league have to really get their heads together and see how they can enhance it. They certainly did that earlier this year by implementing the in-season HGH testing program, which I guess after finalizing and going through the science of it, they legitimately said, okay, this is now we can legitimately begin the testing there. So at least in that sense, they're making progress. But, you know, maybe the idea of a lifetime ban as the first strike, as Matt was saying, you know, maybe that could come into play, but perhaps in an extraordinary circumstance. Andrew, what do you think? What do you think will license start for Major League Baseball?
Yeah, I think the HGH, you know, testing policy will continue to evolve, and as it should. It's tough to say where it's going to go from here. I think players are going to be suspended for this. You know, like we were talking earlier, whether or not they would because of no positive test. I think indeed players will be suspended, and they're certainly going to appeal those as they always do, and we'll see what happens with those appeals. But moving forward, I think America is going to continue, like we've said a million times here in this discussion, America is going to continue to be numb to this steroid talk, this PED talk, this HGH talk, until something is really put in place to just put the kibosh on it. I don't see it really taking a turn for the better anytime too soon, unfortunately.
Yeah. Matt, what do you think?
I think some good can come of this. I think, first off, one thing that I forgot to mention earlier that I think should be explored and will be explored in the future is contract provisions. We talked about how voiding the contracts could become an issue. I think there should be contract provisions in the future. I'm not sure if that's something that's in talks at the moment, but contract provisions that allow teams to void contracts for failed steroid tests, failed HGH tests. I think that can serve as a big deterrent because, like I've been saying, one of the reasons this keeps happening is because the incentives are so high. But if the consequences are also high, they're brought up to match the incentives, then that could be a major deterrent. I think that as we go down the line, the 50-game suspension may be lifted and it'll just go straight 100 and then ban for life. Maybe even move towards ban for life. Hopefully, as a baseball fan, I don't want this to happen again. I don't want more of these names to be released. But I can't say that I'm expecting this to be the last one. I can't say that these 20 players are going to be the last ones indicted. Hopefully they are. I hope that Ryan Braun, an MVP, and A-Rod, one of the most recognizable faces in baseball, being punished severely. I hope that serves as a deterrent for future players, future stars. And I hope that Major League Baseball grows to market some of the players that are clean and that have always been clean. And some of the numbers today and some of the numbers of the past are put more in a historical context when you kind of look back upon it. Like I hope one day we're able to look back upon the steroid era, say that we lived through it, and say that we saw the other side of it too. Because, I mean, baseball has been going on forever, and it's my favorite sport. And, I mean, it may no longer be America's pastime, but I think that it can be what it once was, and that, you know, moving forward, good can come of this. I hope that good comes of this.
Absolutely. Jackie, you have the last word.
I mean, I agree with everything. I think that, you know, there's always going to be players doing this until the repercussions are almost too strict. There's nothing truly stopping these players who take all the steps to get around it from doing it. One article I read from the Washington Post, it was called Biogenesis Scandal Shows Drugs Remain in Baseball, but also that MLB is still trying. Said some athletes will always cheat if the potential reward could be tens of millions of dollars. And that's true for any person in any business. And as long as people can get away with it, they're going to cheat to get out ahead. And there's no difference in baseball until baseball puts down something that says if you do this, you're gone, or something to that effect, where it's either don't do it or you're not in the game, you know. So I think it's going to keep happening until something else.
Definitely, and it's important for Major League Baseball to really step on the brakes now rather than later, because at least if they stop now or try to mitigate this, you know, the issues that are coming up now, you know, it'd be easier to solve later on. But
absolutely.
Certainly, this is a very interesting topic. I think when you're talking about PEDs or steroids or anything of that nature and linking that to Major League Baseball, a lot of legal issues come up, and I'm really thrilled that we were able to talk about this. You all did a phenomenal job, and I'm so proud to say that you guys were a part of Law and Batting Order history and being part of the Huddle. As I said earlier in the video, if you just fast forward it all the way through now, or if you want to go back, you can be part of the discussion using the hashtag #TheHuddle. I'll put something on the bottom here so that you can follow along. Tweet Law and Batting Order at LawNBO and share your comments about this. You can go to Law and Batting Order's Facebook page at facebook.com/Law and Batting Order. You can give your comments there using the hashtag #TheHuddle as well. And I couldn't have done this without you guys. So just to go around again, I thank each and every one of you out there. If you want to follow Andrew, be sure to follow him at Andrew_Orchid. You can follow Jackie at our New York Law School Sports Law Society Twitter handle at NYLS Sports Law, and you can follow the Matt Wilson at MattyWill89. Thank you all so much for joining me, and that's the show. Leave all your comments down below, and be sure to visit Law and Batting Order at lawandbattingorder.com, as well as on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Take care, guys.